Hey everyone, I'm Christine, founder and director of Riverside Recruitment. 9 months ago, I launched Riverside Executive, and I speak with accountants each week who are looking to become a partner of a firm one day. So today, I'm going to answer all of your frequently asked questions about buying into an accounting firm and what partnership looks like. And to do that, I have brought in an expert. Welcome, Michael Garrone. How are you, Michael?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Christine.
Great. So, Michael runs his own practice, and you, like most of your clients, are accountants. So, you will be able to answer all of the questions that I've got for you today. I'm really excited about this one. I think that you'll be able to cover off in some good detail, but also really just clarify some of those questions. Tell me about Mage Advisory, your own practice.
All right. Well, I often start with what we don't actually do.
Okay.
And we don't do the tax return and financial statement piece.
Which everyone that's listening to this, that's what they do, right? Pretty much.
That's exactly right. And not that I have anything against it, but the key is we're not competing with our accounting firms with their clients, which is something they can relax about. Also means while we're super busy all the time, we're not having the same 15 May, 5 June deadlines.
Yeah.
So they call us to help them with a lot of problems that do have those deadlines.
Yeah.
So we're ready to go when they call.
And you've helped accounting firms get ready for employees buying into partnership, haven't you?
That's exactly right. So we're a broad practice. So we're doing what I often call there is succession work.
Yeah.
People coming, often for a lot of firms, their first new partner or director.
Yeah.
Coming through, so we can help them because we obviously I've lived that. I've successioned older partners. I've sold out.
You've done it.
I've started our own firm with fellow directors and partners.
Yep.
As well. So it's nothing like that bit of experience.
Yeah.
I also do partnership disputes where people are either buying someone out or someone's going.
Yeah.
And that's on top of our day-to-day sort of tax specialist work we do for firms.
Okay.
And often I say, we're doing all the specialist work accounting firms don't do day to day.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a wide spread of staff in a second tier or Big Four style firm.
How does an accounting firm know that it is ready to take on a new partner? So I think the most obvious one here is, partner retiring, but candidates will call me up and they'll say, I've been asking for partnership for years and years, but it's not happening. So what needs to happen internally? Where do they need to get to, I don't know, justify bringing in a new partner?
I think that's a big one. That's where we often start with firms, even when they broach with us, can you help me bring someone through? Often the question we ask is, so what is the aim and purpose of bringing those people in? And so the common one, like you said, tends to be succession, someone looking to retire. But just as often, the other big one is growth.
Yep.
The firms have grown, plenty of fees, and the one partner doesn't feel like they can look after all of those clients sufficiently.
Yeah, and I get calls like that.
Yeah.
They'll say, Christine, I've got $2.5 million worth of fees.
Yeah.
It's too much for me. We need, you need to get us an associate director or a director, someone that wants to buy in.
Yeah, and often, so that's sort of a mixture of a little bit of succession and growth. I see a fair bit these days with some of the firms that are more entrepreneurial, where they do have good leverage. They still want to give away some equity to tie people down.
Yeah, okay.
That way you're not having, senior managers, associate directors, like you said, running 1 mil plus in fee bases, but with only restraints over them. So sometimes it's just there to glue everyone together more so.
Yeah. And I guess one of the benefits of that as well is it motivates people more, right? If you are associate director, but then you become an equity holder there, you're more motivated to bring in more fees and manage the team because the business becomes your own. So I guess from that perspective, it works too.
Exactly.
So the next one, let's talk about what buying into partnership actually means. And I'll test you maybe in less than 60 seconds. Like, what is the actual step-by-step process from going from employee to equity holder?
Obviously it comes from both sides, the people buying in and then the people on the other side.
Yeah.
When I guess you're the firm itself, you're looking, like I said, ticking that box for aim and purpose. you're going, well, does the maths work for everyone? How do we come up with a buy-in price?
Yep.
What should be in shareholders agreement? How it's going to be funded, through to what's our process or boxes we expect people to tick before they join. When you're on the other side, I guess you're looking more for number one should always be, are you comfortable with the people you're dealing with in the firm? If you can't tick that box, then,
then you don't want to invest your money into something
and
if
that
you're
goes
not
on.
happy.
That goes on both sides, and sometimes you see people wasting a lot of time on both sides on something that was probably never going to work. They didn't close that fundamental gap, so there was never anything to get to on the dollars and in the dollars and cents.
One of the most frequently asked questions is, people will say, "Oh, what does goodwill and not goodwill mean?" So, can you explain these terms, like really simplify, like what does it actually mean, and what's the difference between a goodwill and a non-goodwill firm?
Okay, best way to explain. I mean, a goodwill obviously means you've got a tradable asset at the end when you retire. So people are still putting a value. You've got to go get vendor finance, bank finance, or a bit of both. So you're always building that retirement nest egg. You always see that generally in the smaller firms.
Yeah.
No goodwill, and I'll talk a little bit about how I don't consider to be necessarily full no goodwill, but all the larger practices normally have morphed to no goodwill because it's just not practical to do the funding on, 30, 40 people plus partnerships and maintain goodwill, actually grow the business, bring through new people. Yeah. Just doesn't work. So the most common thing they'll ask people for is a capital contribution. Yeah, okay. Which is more a working capital loan that they've already arranged with their existing bank. Sure. And you get that money back at the end.
Yeah, so really, and that sort of takes me on to the next question. Yeah. So, hypothetically, if you had 250,000, if you put it in a goodwill firm, 20 years later, you might be, it could have doubled, it could have tripled, it could have quadrupled, or if it's in non-goodwill, you're simply just getting your investment back.
That's exactly right. So it's more like a loan to the practice. In saying that, I always like to say when I've looked into no goodwill, most of what I consider to be like a hybrid goodwill model, and that good way to describe it is, new partners might be making the practice $1 million a year, but taking home much less. Okay. And as they get older and more senior, they'll often be taking home bigger pay packets. Yeah. And so there is sort of like an internal financing model where you don't take home your full contribution in early years. Okay. So you're still paying for it in some ways, but it is more of a cash flow lend.
Would dividend payments work the same in both structures?
Yes, I think in most firms, and we consider it normally to be best practices, you tend to have a lower monthly fixed amount you're trying to pay each one of your shareholders. Often important just in terms of them paying day-to-day bills, maybe their principal and interest payments on a loan. Yeah. And the normal model is you look there at a quarterly basis as to hoping that, expecting that you've made more profit that's been built up. Yeah. And everyone will sit down as a shareholder's hat on and pay a larger quarterly dividend, which also deals with tax installments. Yeah, okay. That's the most common methodology I tend to run into.
Okay. We'll move on to, employees. So if you're a candidate in the market, potentially joining a firm with a future equity buy-in, or maybe you want to buy into your current firm, what are the key considerations before, that candidates should make before they buy into a firm? So a few things that I was thinking, but I'd love for you to expand. We're looking at revenue and profits, any debt. Sort of expand on that a bit for us.
Yeah, so I think before you even get there, I think we mentioned before, obviously there's the people part. You need to tick the box. After that, you're really looking at revenue and then following that very quickly profit. Yeah. If it's goodwill, are you going to be making sufficient money to pay off that debt that you're going to need to take on? And that, of course, means you need to look at ages of client base and how good a client base is it. Is it one that's transferable to me in the first place, which is always trickier for laterals as they step into practice. That's where if you're a lateral stepping at that level, you tend to need a far more clear, structured process in terms of how client relationships will be built and handed over.
Okay, so finding out exactly, if you are going to be handed, say, $1 million worth of fees, like what's that actually going to look like?
That's right. Yeah. How are you going to go about betting that client base down versus just here's $1 million go for it, because the place you're coming from might run their clients a very different way.
Yeah,
Every
okay.
firm's a little bit unique in how they deal with their clients.
In terms of the buy-in price itself, how is that determined? And one thing I'd love for you to go into is the difference in buy-in price from like market price versus an employee buying in. Because my understanding is, if we're talking cents to dollar, perhaps firms might sell it, 120, 130, 140. But if it's an existing employee, it's, closer to maybe $1 per dollar to dollar. Is that right?
That's exactly right. And I think we just need to delineate between what are perpetual partnerships, whether incorporated or partnerships, where your partners are always selling and leaving the clients behind to be looked after. Probably the most old and traditional model, which tends to trade at that sort of what I call a management buyout discount. No one's having to negotiate hard. There's no warranties and indemnities. And there's an expectation on how the client runs. There's those or smaller ones where they just want to maximise price. And I think if you always want to maximise price, you're better off just going to market.
Okay.
And obviously, no goodwill. You don't need to worry about those ones at all, really, in terms of your cash flow requirements. But that's the biggest difference. And then there's obviously some of the private equity models that are out there buying a few firms at the moment.
And there's other ways to sort of, rather than the cents to the dollar, people do the profit multiples, that sort of thing as well. Can you explain, some of the other ways that firms might be valued?
So like I said, yes, the smaller ones do tend to go at $1 per dollar revenue. Sometimes bought by larger firms who just want to build up their revenue, so they're prepared to pay more.
Okay,
and
sure.
And they have the other funding and profit lines to pay that off.
So you feel when boutique firms sell off to a larger firm, they'll typically get a higher price, will they?
That's exactly right. But at a certain size, most practices will go on a maintainable EBIT, as they call it, which is profit by a particular multiple, taking into account partners or directors' salaries. And that's where you move from that sort of, $500,000 to $1.5 million fee parcel to the larger firms, 3, 4, 5 million and up, where they are looking mostly at the bottom line.
Okay.
And so that's where you just move from one to the next. And anyone buying in, you ultimately need to be looking at, is the practice profitable? Is it maintainable? Because that's how you're going to pay your debt off. So if you're buying a parcel of fees at $1.40 a revenue, then you'd certainly have to look into how you're going to pay off that bank debt.
So speaking of profits, what is maybe an average profit margin, a really good profit margin that maybe accountants should be considering when buying in?
Look, I mean, each practice is unique, but you probably work on anything from 20 to 40% plus, even in the current market. That's probably before partners or directors' salaries. But you can find, one partner running a 2 mil client base only making 25%. And you can find one with $1 million in fees maybe making 50%, making the same amount of profit.
Sure.
Different client base, partners doing more work or less work.
And that's why when you need to really look at the, how that buy-in's been calculated as well, right? Versus the profit. Sure. And I guess in terms of the price of a firm, is AI and automation and offshoring, is that changing the valuation of an accounting firm?
Probably only if it hits the bottom line.
Sure.
But certainly I think...
So if it's making it more profitable,
that's exactly right. Having better systems, better process, accepting you can't always just increase your prices. I certainly see a lot more firms, having more capital and operational expenditure year on year where things get renewed rather than stagnate. So I think, firms that keep up is probably the better way to frame it. So it's not enough just to use AI. It's are you using it effectively, or the existing systems and processes you've got. Biggest change I probably see is just model that are out there. As more firms have their sort of retainer models and...
Oh, you mean moving from that timesheet to more the fixed fees and charging clients the same thing, the same price monthly?
And I have a mixture of way we do work, but some of those firms with their models will be getting money up front or in advance even. So when you look at their working capital requirements, they might almost net out to nil, so they can grow without needing to borrow money,
Yeah.
or it's sitting in their WIP and debtors ledger. Now, those firms are definitely worth more.
Okay.
Yes, it still needs to hit the bottom line, but just a different way of doing things.
Yeah. In terms of the buy-in itself, so you're an associate director looking to buy in, the firm's asking you to invest 200K or 300K. Where are they getting this money? Who is funding the buy-in?
Okay, at smaller amounts, that sort of 200-300 grand,
Yeah.
you can probably use your existing bank. If you've got a home, the bank will have security over that.
Yeah.
If you're starting to go to larger amounts, $500,000, mil plus, the only people you're going to be able to talk to normally is the firm's banker.
Okay.
And that's why when we do succession work with firms, you don't want to send partners off or prospective new partners to waste all this time with their existing financier.
Yeah.
On finance, they just can't actually get because they don't bank the firm and have line of sight on financials and cash flow.
Sure. So it's quite difficult or almost impossible to fund it if it's sort of $500,000 plus into the partnership.
From your own financier, that's where often succession will go and talk to the financier of the existing bank.
Yeah.
We normally know roughly what all the professional service policies are at the different big four firms, and sometimes outside of that.
Yeah, okay.
So that negotiation can happen with the banks, your existing bank.
Something I'm looking forward to getting into, I want to talk a lot about what partners actually earn. Really passionate about this. I've been in recruitment 10 years. Partners are pretty private. They don't like to share what they earn. I did a LinkedIn poll, must have been 6 months ago. I was curious as to what accountants thought partners earned. And I think it was about 70% of accountants thought that most partners were earning less than 250K a year. Now, we both know that's not true. We have got a huge candidate shortage, okay? So I believe that we should be celebrating how much partners earn and really educating the accounting community so that they've got something to look forward to. If you're a senior accountant and you think your glass ceiling is 250, maybe you'll move into commercial accounting. But if you realise that there is no glass ceiling, it probably is a bit more, gives you a bit more of an incentive to keep going. So I guess, what do you see? What is a typical equity partner? They've maybe been equity for 2 years or 10 years. Like, what are they typically earning?
You're probably talking a fixed draw partner could be as low as 200 sort of grand.
Yeah.
Beyond that, people can be going up to $1 million.
Yeah.
And beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And I should say you don't need to sit in the second tier or big four to necessarily be hitting those larger amounts. There's plenty of boutique and smaller firms that can bank those sort of bigger amounts where they've got, long-term, good client bases that have been around a while with good systems and process. Yeah. They can be making more than some of the second tier firms comfortably.
Yeah. So, fair to say that most partners would be earning over 400 or 500K a year, do you think?
I think that would not be unreasonable
in
the market.
What's the most you've seen, What's the most you can earn, do you think?
I've seen people certainly over the $1 million and well-run practices.
Yeah. Any more?
Yeah. I think people earning more than that will be the unusual practices. I probably haven't seen where it's one partner leveraged on a larger firm.
Yeah, okay.
That's where you can get some differences, but there aren't too many of those out there.
Yeah.
Where one person's trying to just leverage a whole practice.
Yeah. And I think and I think that's something I really want to share with everyone. I think there's this idea that CFOs earn, a lot of money long term, and they definitely do. And we're not going to include, the CFO of Virgin or whatever, but I just think that in public practice, you can get this long-term career, $500,000 to $1 million plus a year with one firm. It's so lucrative, I think, and I think it's something that should really be celebrated. Now, one of the inspirations for this podcast was the federal budget that came out last month. It's been all over the news. Accountants are speaking about it, but in terms of equity buy-in, a couple of questions I wanted to ask you today, because there's a lot of false news out there and there's a lot of people that don't really know what they're talking about. But does it have any effect on existing partners? You know, if someone is perhaps looking to retire in the next couple of years, does it make any difference from a tax perspective whether they sell now or whether they sell in a year or two's time with the CGT changes? Yeah,
look, in the short term, I don't think there'll be any major change or movement in the market, not just for purely tax anyway. I think a lot of accountants will be able to access their small business concessions and get a fair bit of CGT relief anyway. So I don't think that'll drive it. I think it's more just going to be an accumulation of the law changing, potential trust changes, you know, another 100 pages of legislation to get across. Make sure your firm's across the AML and KYC changes from 1 July.
Yeah.
And, yeah, we're going through a pretty big disruption again with AI, but I think everyone's probably enjoying that part of it.
It feels like a big year, 2026, you know, with the AML changes, the budget. Everyone's talking about AI. Everyone's doing different things with AI. I think a lot of accountants just feel they've got a lot to do at the moment, don't they? But I guess, you know, back to the CGT changes again, are there any additional, so assuming that it all goes through, are there any additional considerations for those employees who are looking to buy in equity to an accounting firm if these new changes go through?
Look, maybe the way you structure your buy-in entity used will require a bit more thought. But, I mean, the most you can ever do is minimise these things. I think most people that want to step up to partner, there's lots of reasons they do it.
Yeah.
And they're not just purely money. Obviously, you'd hope it's worth doing or you wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But it's more people want to have the ability to sit in the hot seat, want to be the final word with clients.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of boxes people are ticking before they worry about their CGT outcome.
Yeah. Why do you think someone should continue their career in public practice and become a partner?
Look, the main difference I think we have in accounting is it is a very diverse and interesting area, and it's up to you to either specialise or not in the different areas.
Yeah.
And you've always got, if your client base is growing and changing over time, you've always got clients doing interesting things, new things to learn. Whereas I think in that commercial space, yes, there's a lot of different roles out there too.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, it's not, I can't see it being as diverse.
Of course. And I think in the commercial space as well, you're changing jobs every 3 or 4 years typically as well. So you're not getting that one job long term like what you are in public practice.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think business services can get that as well, where people have seen the same client too many times. But I think people often have the joy, you know, building relationships with those clients too when they know you've been around and you've got some more stories with them to talk about.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for today. Today we had Michael Garrone. He went through all of the frequently asked questions we get about buying into partnerships. So if you are a candidate looking for a new role or a buy-in for partnership, please reach out. If you're a firm looking to appoint a new partner, Riverside Executive, we'd love to help. And of course, if you are looking for any advice on tax or how to structure your shareholders agreement or anything like that, then we'll be sure to include Michael's contact details in the notes. Thank you so much for coming in today, Michael. You've been great.
Thank you, Christine. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you.